I'm working on a new composition that is based in like the film noir genre. So think 1940s, 1950s detective vibe. A lot of minor, major seventh tonality, like vibe happenings, these tensions, right? So if I play a C minor, major seven, a lot of the vibe of the song is built around that. I have a solo section in the song, and one of my mentors, upon checking out what I was doing, was mentioning that it might be a good idea to experiment with some of the chord qualities. What I had going on in the beginning of this solo, I was just taking the C minor major seventh, or actually I started on D flat minor major seventh, and I moved down a half step because I really like the idea of this sound of this half step movement, right? So D flat minor major seven, right? And then C minor major seven. I like that sound. But they were suggesting as I got into the solo more, maybe to think about mixing it up a little bit so it doesn't just sound like I'm taking that one shape and transposing it. And to start experimenting. So in the beginning, what I started doing is just experimenting by adding some different tensions. This C minor major seventh with the sharp 11 in it, right? So all of a sudden, like we're dealing with a different mode and a different color than was in the traditional melodic minor sound, right? And you actually see I wrote Lydian flat 3 above it, so I just had a quick note of what mode that was built on. As it went on, I added in an E flat 9, sus4 flat 13. I might just adjust the spelling later because it was just kind of getting the name in and trying to be as literal as I could right at the moment just to consider what mode I was using. So I'm using something called modal interchange, and that means that I'm keeping the root note the same, but then I'm looking through all the chords that could be based or built from that root up from all of the available modes and scales. So meaning E flat's our root note, right? So I could build an E flat chord from Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. I could go through all the modes of melodic minor, go through the modes of harmonic minor. I can go through the modes of harmonic major, and I can just experiment with different chord qualities from each of those. So I'm borrowing from a parallel mode. So all of those modes and scales are based on E flat, right? But the chord qualities you get from them vary considerably. And you see over this E flat here, I actually wrote out all the modes that could be used over this chord. And let's see if I can change the position of this. Zoom in here. So over this chord, we could use Aeolian, harmonic minor, harmonic major, Ionian, sharp 5. So it gives the improviser, or you as a composer writing melodies, some more interesting sounds to play with and create tension and release. And really was going for a lot of tension and release in this song because it wants to feel like that, detective in New York City in that time, dark nights, smoky office, right? That kind of vibe, a private investigator, right? Vibe. Uh, and yeah, so one thing I did actually was I decided to make a chart for myself. I'm going to tweak this chart and make the colors a little less saturated so it's easier to see. And if you are interested in getting this chart, these are all modal interchange chords, feel free to reach out to me at anatomyoftone.com, and I would be glad to send you this chart for free. And if you happen to be interested in learning more about modal interchange and how to compose or improvise with it, I also offer lessons, so you could reach out to me and talk about ways that you can integrate this more into your playing or composition. Basically, what I did with this chart is I arranged it so that major, or all the major sounds, are in orange, and all the minor sounds are in blue. The diminished are in purple, and the augmented are in green. So basically, natural versus lowered versus raised, right? And for instance, say we have this minor major seventh sound, but I wanted to experiment with some different chord qualities. One thing I would do is I would go down and I would try to find another line that has minor major seventh in it. Here we do, and harmonic minor has a minor major seventh, and it has a flat 13th in it. So that's kind of a cool color, right? From minor major seventh, what do we have? A natural 9, right? Natural 11th, the flat 13th. That's me playing the full chord, right? It's a really cool, tense sound. Now, that's different than if I would have used the melodic minor, because we had a natural 13th in that chord, and which has its own charm, right? So by choosing different chords from modes that are in parallel, and you'll see everything starts with C on here, right? So in other words, I'm starting everything from the same root note, so the root function is the same, but I'm choosing a different chord quality on top of it from a parallel mode, right? So what I've done is I've labeled everything as a C root note, and then we could see that I've also put in the formula for each scale or each mode. Sometimes when composing, I just find it's helpful to have a chart like this, even if you know your modes well, just to look through and see if there's something you're missing, particularly when you feel like you're just short of something, right? You're like, I really like the sound, but I just wish it was a little bit more exciting. Having a tool like this allows you to experiment with some different sounds, right? And maybe some sounds that maybe you haven't used a ton, and are stepping away from some chords that are used in conventional formal harmony, right, or functional harmony. Let me know if you have any questions about this. Contact me at anatomyoftone.com.